Did Iam Tongi truly win American Idol because of his voice or because of his tears? That question ignited a firestorm across the internet the moment his name was announced as the winner of Season 21. It was May 21st, 2023, and the stage at American Idol erupted in celebration as Iam, a soft-spoken teenager from Kahuku, Hawaii, collapsed in tears, holding back sobs as the confetti fell. The audience roared. The judges were in awe. Yet, beyond the bright lights and standing ovation, a storm was brewing. While millions celebrated the emotional victory of the first Pacific Islander champion in Idol's history, others began to whisper, or rather shout across social media, was this really about talent? What followed was a swirl of praise, accusations, and a deeply personal journey that most never saw coming. Behind the scenes, Iam Tongi was not only navigating overnight fame, but also facing harsh questions about his worth, his voice, and the story that brought him to the top. And what happened next was even more revealing than the moment he took the crown. When Iam Tongi stepped onto the American Idol stage for the first time, few could have predicted the storm of emotion he would unleash. His audition wasn't flashy. There were no vocal gymnastics or dramatic gestures, just a boy with a guitar, a haunting voice, and a heart still broken from losing his father. The song he chose, Monsters by James Blunt, became more than a performance. It became a eulogy. His eyes welled with tears as he sang each word, and within seconds the entire room fell silent. Katy Perry wiped her face, overcome by the raw grief in his voice. Lionel Richie, a veteran who's heard thousands of voices, simply said, "You're not just singing, you're telling a story." That moment, captured in one uninterrupted take, would go viral around the world, racking up millions of views. But the audition was just the beginning. Each week, Iam returned to the stage, not with the power vocals of his competitors, but with a gentle, soul-stirring sincerity that pierced through the noise. By the time the finale arrived, he had built something many contestants failed to achieve, a deeply emotional bond with the audience. When his name was called as the winner on that May evening, it wasn't just a celebration of talent, it was the climax of a story that had captured a nation. But while the lights dimmed and confetti settled, another narrative was just beginning, one filled with praise, suspicion, and an unexpected backlash. Just hours after Iam Tongi's historic win, social media turned into a battleground. What should have been a triumphant moment quickly spiraled into one of the most divisive in recent American Idol history. While fans flooded Twitter and Instagram with heartfelt congratulations, a darker wave of criticism surged beneath the celebration. The accusations were blunt and brutal. He won because of his sob story. It's not a singing competition anymore. It's a sympathy contest. Hashtags began trending. Comment sections were filled with doubt. Some viewers claimed that Iam's emotional narrative, particularly the heartbreaking loss of his father, had unfairly tilted the scale. Critics argued that Idol had shifted from showcasing raw vocal power to rewarding personal tragedy. Even past contestants were pulled into the fray as online users compared vocal range, stage presence, and technical skill, insisting others were more deserving. For Iam, still processing his life-changing win, the public backlash was jarring. He had just fulfilled the promise he made to his late father to sing his truth on the biggest stage in the country. Yet now his authenticity was being questioned, his motives dissected, and his talent doubted by thousands who had never even heard him sing in person. The fairy tale had barely begun, and already the cracks in the public's perception were starting to show. But as the noise grew louder, Iam did something unexpected. He stayed silent, letting his music, not his words, speak in the storm. And that silence would soon become his most powerful answer. From the beginning, Iam Tongi's presence on American Idol felt different, almost out of place in a competition often dominated by high-octane vocals and theatrical showmanship. While other contestants belted power notes and dazzled with technical precision, Iam chose restraint. He didn't shout for attention, he whispered his truth. His voice, soft and gravelly, had a warmth that didn't demand applause but quietly earned it. Week after week, as contestants like Megan Danielle stunned with gospel-inspired highs and Colin Stuff rocked the stage with country grit, Iam sat calmly with his guitar, singing as if he were still on his front porch in Kahuku, Hawaii. It was a gamble, one that many thought would cost him the crown. In a format built around vocal moments, Iam refused to perform to impress. Instead, he delivered emotions that felt lived in and real. For traditional Idol fans, his performances were a departure from the gold standard, the big notes, the goosebump-inducing finales. Critics pounced, calling him too mellow, too niche, even too one-note. But his supporters saw it differently. They didn't hear weakness, they heard courage. In an era of overproduced voices and artificial glamour, Iam's authenticity stood out like a quiet lighthouse in a stormy sea of noise. And while many doubted his approach, millions connected with his stillness, his grief, and the quiet conviction that he didn't need to prove anything. He just needed to be heard. And as the weeks rolled on, that authenticity began to tip the scales in his favor. As the backlash intensified, something remarkable happened. Iam Tongi didn't have to defend himself. Others did it for him. Chief among them was Megan Danielle, the season's runner-up and one of the most technically gifted vocalists in the competition. In an industry where rivalry often breeds resentment, Megan stepped forward with grace and conviction, stating publicly, "He truly deserves it." Iam is genuine, humble, and pours his heart into his music. Her words cut through the noise like a clear note in a crowded room. For fans who were on the fence, her endorsement was a powerful reminder. Talent comes in many forms. And while some saw Iam's win as a product of grief, others began to understand it as something deeper, a reflection of emotional resonance, not just vocal range. On social media, a growing wave of supporters began to drown out the critics. "He makes me feel something no one else does," one fan tweeted. Another wrote, "He sings like he's telling your own story back to you." The numbers didn't lie either. His audition video alone had already surpassed 16 million views, more than any other contestant that season. For these fans, the connection wasn't about technique, it was about truth. Iam wasn't performing, he was mourning, healing, and hoping, all through music. He wasn't trying to manipulate sympathy, he was surviving loss in the only way he knew how. And in doing so, he gave millions permission to feel their own grief too. For every critic that questioned his crown, there were thousands more ready to defend it. And thanks to Megan's public support, the narrative began to shift, from doubt to understanding to undeniable respect. Long before the finale, it was clear that something extraordinary was unfolding. Iam Tongi's audition didn't just go viral, it exploded. His rendition of Monsters, a gut-wrenching tribute to his late father, swept through social media with the force of a tidal wave. Within days, the video had crossed the million-view mark. Within weeks, it passed 10 million. By the time the season ended, it had soared beyond 16 million views, far outpacing every other contestant's content combined. But this wasn't just a viral fluke. Behind the emotional reactions and comment sections filled with crying emojis were cold, hard numbers that pointed to a groundswell of support too large to ignore. Though American Idol no longer publicly releases voting results, industry insiders and online trackers reported a consistent pattern. Iam led the vote almost every week. His quiet delivery, gentle guitar, and soulful presence had captivated a country still aching for something authentic. People didn't just watch, they voted, they shared, they told their families, "You have to hear this kid." His songs became more than performances, they were experiences, deeply personal for many viewers who saw their own stories of loss in his music. This emotional resonance translated into real-world momentum. By the time the finale aired, there was no underdog comeback, no surprise twist. Iam's win felt inevitable to those who had followed him since that first haunting note. In a competition often driven by spectacle, Iam had turned vulnerability into victory. The voice that once trembled with grief had become the voice of a generation looking for healing. And the public, in overwhelming, winning American Idol is often seen as the final chapter, the happily ever after moment. But for Iam Tongi, it was only the beginning. In the weeks following his victory, the quiet teenager from Kahuku transformed into a breakout star, and the world was watching to see what he would do next. His debut single, I'll Be Seeing You, didn't just make waves. It topped Billboard's rock digital song sales chart, a rare feat for an Idol winner in recent years. The track surged into the top 3 most downloaded songs in the country, confirming that his appeal wasn't limited to emotional TV moments. It had translated into genuine, measurable success. But Iam's first major public appearance after Idol would unexpectedly spark controversy. On July 10, 2023, he performed the U.S. national anthem at the Home Run Derby, one of America's most watched sporting events. Under the stadium lights, in front of millions, he sang with signature tenderness and soul. But as camera zoomed in, sharp-eyed viewers noticed something. Iam had forgotten to remove his hat during the anthem, a gesture widely recognized in the U.S. as a sign of respect. Almost immediately, social media lit up. Critics labeled it disrespectful. Commentators speculated if the young artist was ill-prepared for national attention. But before the backlash could spiral, Iam responded. His statement was simple and sincere. He was overwhelmed with nerves and meant no offense. His humility, not a rehearsed PR move, but a genuine explanation, quickly softened public opinion. Many applauded his honesty, noting that grace under fire is what truly defines character. In a moment that could have derailed his momentum, Iam reminded fans that perfection was never his brand. Sincerity was, and that sincerity would carry him far beyond one televised mistake. If Iam Tongi's journey had a soundtrack, Monsters would be the emotional core. And in August 2023, that song came full circle in a moment that felt nothing short of cinematic. On the 25th of that month, Iam released a duet version of Monsters alongside the original artist himself, James Blunt. For most musicians, singing with your idol is the dream. For Iam, it was something more, a tribute to the man whose memory launched his rise, his father. The collaboration wasn't staged for headlines. It was raw, reverent, and breathtaking. Blunt's weathered voice opened with a quiet sorrow. But when Iam joined in, the emotional weight of the song doubled. Their voices, one polished by years of experience, the other shaped by fresh grief and soft resilience, blended seamlessly, creating a performance that was less about harmony and more about healing. Fans who had followed Iam since his first Idol audition were moved to tears again, many calling it a full-circle moment that honored not just music but legacy. The video garnered millions of views within days and was shared across platforms as a masterclass in authentic artistry. But beyond the numbers and praise, this duet marked a transition. It was the moment Iam stepped out of the shadow of a TV show and into the broader music world. Not as a contestant, but as a peer. Singing beside James Blunt wasn't just an honor. It was a validation that his voice, born from personal tragedy and gentle strength, belonged on global stages. And for Iam, it was also a message to his late father. Look how far your music has brought me. In that haunting melody, father, son, and hero stood side by side, even if only in spirit. While many new stars rushed to capitalize on fame with flashy endorsements or quick turnaround albums, Iam Tongi took a different path, one that reflected the values he was raised with: community, humility, and heart. In August 2023, when devastating wildfires swept through Maui, displacing thousands and destroying homes, Iam didn't just post a hashtag. He acted. Using his growing platform, he called for donations, recorded a heartfelt rendition of Starting All Over Again by Hawaiian legend Israel Kamakawiwo'ino, and posted it with a message of hope. The video wasn't polished or promotional, just Iam, a guitar, and a voice filled with sorrow and solidarity. Donations surged. His fans responded not just with money, but with admiration for an artist who clearly hadn't forgotten his roots. Then, during the holiday season, he surprised listeners again with the release of an Iam Tongi Christmas, a warm and soulful EP that included classic covers like White Christmas, The Christmas Song, and Mele Kalikimaka. It wasn't a marketing move. It was a gift. The arrangements were simple, the delivery heartfelt, and for many fans, it became the emotional soundtrack to their holidays. But perhaps the most meaningful moment came in February 2025, when Iam performed at the Pacific Island Cultural Night, a celebration of heritage, tradition, and identity. For Iam, it was more than just another show. It was a homecoming. Standing long before the confetti, the cameras, and the controversy, Iam Tongi was just a barefoot boy on the beaches of Kahuku, Hawaii, a quiet kid with salt in his hair, calluses on his fingers, and music in his heart. He wasn't chasing fame. He was chasing the echo of his father's voice. Rodney Tongi wasn't a famous musician, but to Iam, he was everything. Teacher, friend, hero. It was Rodney who placed that first ukulele in his son's hands at the age of 5, whispering, "Music isn't about sounding perfect, it's about feeling it." And when Iam struggled, Rodney never pushed. He simply sat beside him, strumming gently as the Hawaiian sun dipped below the horizon. These weren't lessons, they were lifelines. The real turning point came when Iam turned 13. Life in Hawaii had become unsustainable. Financial hardship forced the Tongi family to relocate to Federal Way, Washington. Iam, pulled from the sands of home and dropped into the cold unfamiliarity of the mainland, was devastated. His friends, his island, and those sunset jam sessions all gone. But before they left, Rodney handed him a weathered guitar. Not brand new, not shiny, but full of love. It became Iam's anchor. When Rodney passed away just a few years later, that guitar became something more. A memory, a promise, and a source of pain too heavy to carry. For weeks, Iam couldn't bring himself to play. Music felt like a betrayal of everything he'd lost. But eventually, that silence cracked. And when it did, the only thing louder than his grief was his determination. Joining American Idol wasn't about exposure. It was about finishing the song he and his father had started. When he walked into that audition room, guitar in hand, it wasn't just wood and strings. It was his father's presence. His voice, thick with grief, turned Monsters into a national prayer. And when he won, eyes lifted to the sky, it wasn't just a victory. It was a message. I kept the promise, Dad. That's the real story of Iam Tongi. Not an overnight sensation, but a son who turned heartbreak into harmony and used music not to escape the past, but to honor it. Iam Tongi's journey isn't defined by a single song or a reality show victory. It's defined by something far deeper, a quiet resilience born from love, loss, and loyalty. He didn't just sing his way into the hearts of millions. He bared his soul on national television, carrying the weight of grief and memory with every note. From the shores of Kahuku to the stage of American Idol, from tearful auditions to Billboard charts, and from controversy to cultural celebration, Iam has proven one thing. True artistry isn't measured in high notes or flashy performances. It's measured in honesty. While critics may continue to question how and why he won, those who've listened closely already know the answer. Because when Iam sings, he's not just performing, he's remembering, he's healing, he's honoring a promise. So now we ask you, what do you think? Was Iam Tongi's victory earned through emotion or undeniable talent? Has he redefined what it means to be an American Idol, or simply reminded us what music is truly about? Drop your thoughts on the comments. Don't forget to hit that like button if this story moved you. Share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to stay tuned for more powerful, untold stories from the world of music and beyond. This isn't the end of Iam Tongi's story. In fact, it's only the beginning.